So I know a lot of us have heard the saying that ADHD is a superpower. Well, it's definitely not mine. So I'm going to talk about some of the things that I absolutely hate about having ADHD and the way that it impacts my life negatively. The reason why I'm making this video is because I've seen this trend of this condition always being portrayed as like a positive or a superpower. And if you're somebody who doesn't feel like that, then it could be hard because maybe you're thinking, well, what's wrong with me? How is it a positive for these other people? And it's having this negative impact on my life. So this video is to really say that you're not alone, and it is not like that for everyone. Now, it is not all doom and gloom when it comes to ADHD. There actually are some positives that I experience, and I will talk about that in a different video, but this video is just about the negatives. So let's get into it. One of the things that I really struggle with is forgetfulness. And this includes forgetting people's names or forgetting to do chores or handle responsibilities. It really sucks when somebody introduces themselves to me and I forget their name basically immediately. And then it becomes kind of embarrassing as the conversation goes on, or I'm talking to somebody and kind of have to pretend to know their names and I have to keep that up for the rest of the conversation. Or even remembering something like a doctor's appointment. I just can't remember doctor's appointments. Another thing that I guess kind of fits in with memory is it's so difficult for me to take verbal directions. This affects me at my job where I'll be asked to do something maybe in a specific way and I will be trying my hardest to listen and understand the directions, but it just won't click in my brain. And then I have to ask for lots of clarification and I kind of feel stupid because I have no idea what's going on. However, if that same thing is just written out, I know exactly how to accomplish that task. And then it kind of feels weird because no one else has to do that. No one else that I work with at least has to do that. And it's only me that really just can't comprehend verbal directions, especially on the first time. Another thing that really sucks is just the impaired executive function. When I'm given a lot of new information, my brain gets so overwhelmed and I don't know what goes on, but I really can't even respond. Like if somebody asks me a lot of different questions, things just get jumbled up there and I don't know how to sort it all out and answer any of the questions. And it really becomes so much so quickly that my brain just kind of shuts down and I freeze up and get stuck. And a lot of the time I really just have to say, all right, hold on, I need a break. Just give me a few minutes. I'll be right back. And it really sucks because I feel like my brain's gas tank is like half the size of everyone else's, and when it comes to executive function, like my gas just runs out way before other people around me. And yeah, I'm really trying to figure out the best way to handle that, but it's been a pretty difficult challenge to deal with. Another thing that really sucks is just maintaining relationships in general. Mostly I'm talking about friendships, but even with family as well. You know, like when you have relationships with other people, the expectation is that you're going to contact them maybe somewhat frequently, ask them how they're doing, really be productive in maintaining that relationship. And these relationships are very important to me, but my brain just doesn't put that together. And I forget to reach out to people, and it's not for any particular reason, but it's a very difficult thing to understand because if you're that person that's not being reached out to or not being talked to, you can take it personally and then, think like, oh, well, this person just doesn't want to talk to me. But for me, that's not the case. I just forget and I have so many other things going on in my brain that I could put that off for sometimes months. And then in some cases that could really ruin a friendship, but a lot of relationships require some maintenance. And maybe if you're trying to network with other people, catching up with them and talking to them can be pretty important. And it's just something that I've really never been good at doing. Another thing that really sucks is trying to learn things that I'm not intensely interested in. Most of the things that I've learned in school or college or even through my job, I've just kind of done or had to do because I've had to learn them. And those are always the most difficult things for me to learn. And it sucks because even if I'm interested, let's say in a specific job that I have, if there's a part of that job that I'm not interested in that might be important, I could really fall behind or maybe not do as well as compared to other people, even though I'm more than capable of doing that thing. This really affected me in school where I had to pay attention or try to pay attention to subjects that I just didn't care about. And a lot of the time I would get bad grades, even though I was an overall good student. Well, as you get into college, you could kind of pick and choose the classes that you wanted to take. But when you have a job and there's an output that's expected of you, it's a lot harder to do that. Another thing is regarding certain things, just feeling overall like the world wasn't made for me or wasn't made with me in mind, specifically things like how we're expected to work a job for 20 to 30 years and then retire. My brain cannot understand that. I could understand a few years, but that long, decades worth of doing the same thing, or even working in the same area or for the same company, that just sounds absolutely horrible. Another thing is weekends. I don't like being off on the weekends because that's when everyone else is off, and if I want to go do something or go out and be somewhere where everyone else is, it can be very overwhelming. And just like the 9 to 5 in general, that's the time where my brain is most active, and all of that is taken up by a job, and the rest of the time that's left to me is when my brain is really like the least cooperative. Another thing that really sucks is the impulsivity, specifically regarding, let's say, eating or spending money. In my mind, I know what I'm supposed to eat and what I'm not supposed to eat, or how much money I have to spend on a certain thing, and I can keep up with the discipline like 90 or 95% of the time, but there's that 5% of the time where I'll just feel like super impulsive and make rationalities about why I need to spend money on a certain thing or eat a certain thing. And if I'm not very careful, those things can really be damaging, more so the spending money versus like the eating something. But fighting impulses all the time is very difficult to deal with, and it's just another thing that can feel super overwhelming. Another thing is just the thoughts that don't go away, where sometimes I'll have this like song or like a phrase that just keeps replaying and replaying in my mind, and no matter what I do, it like will not go away. Gosh, that's so annoying. And it goes along with not being able to focus, right? Because if you're trying to focus on something and you have a song that's constantly playing in your head, it can make it even that much more difficult. Something also that goes along with that is replaying a time where somebody wronged me and it just bothered me, and I can't get the thought of that out of my head. Realistically now, if it's like a few years later, I know that I don't really care about that thing anymore, but it still like plays over in my brain and just like irks me and bothers me, and I know I should move on, but certain things, it's just like, I can't. Another thing is just overall being bored a lot of the time. Even if it's something that I found intensely interesting even like a year ago, now I'll get really bored by it. Or if you think of things that like give people lots of dopamine, like playing video games. I used to love playing video games, and I still do like it, but sometimes I'll just get so bored of playing video games after like 20 minutes. And that's supposed to be something that like keeps your brain entertained. And sometimes on those days where I have very low dopamine and nothing's giving me that like stimulation in my brain, I'll just sit and basically doom scroll all day and stare at my phone because I'm so bored and I can't do anything else. And that really sucks sometimes because my interests will change very frequently, and a lot of the time I'll get obsessed with something and become really good at a certain skill, and then a switch will just turn off in my brain where I'm like, yeah, I don't want to do that anymore. And a lot of the time it's like right before I could have made that thing very useful or used that skill to produce an income for myself or something like that, but the interest just changes so quickly. And so there you have it. Those are some of the things that are really difficult for me to deal with when it comes to ADHD. Let me know of some of the difficult things that you deal with in the comments, and if you'd like to see more videos like this, please go ahead and subscribe.